So we can talk about that and a whole lot because obviously power affects the commodity space, commodity supply, just as Chamberlain said when I was coming on. So let's delve into the commodity space now with senior economist with financial services company, Dumebi Oluwole. She joins us. Hi, Dumebi.
Hi, Amy. Good morning.
Good morning. Let's start with this power. The heat these days is climate change.
Yes.
And then the power, I don't know, in your area, how's the supply?
To be honest, it's not good. It's not good. I don't really know what's happening, but power is one of the big issues. Even when you go to the markets, maybe you're trying to get frozen foods, you see that their stock is probably already defrosted and things like that. So the power issue is one big problem that clearly the government needs to significantly address, simply because it's not only even affecting households, but now also affecting the productivity of businesses. And remember that the role of the government is to create an enabling environment for businesses to thrive. If businesses are not thriving, output will decline, and they will be unable to employ more people. That way, we're seeing consumer disposable income, which is already being eroded by inflation, erode even further, because more people would not have the income equipped for them, simply because there are no jobs available. So yeah, it's a very big vicious cycle that clearly needs to be significantly addressed.
And I mean, I don't know if it's a recognition of being known in the world as the poorest when it comes to accessing.
Yes.
I mean, it's really sad, and we are the giant of Africa. I think South Africa just joined us, and they are not used to generator and all of that. We're used to it, but even the price of petrol, diesel,
everything is up.
You can't run away from it.
So to be honest, what this simply has pointed to is the fact that when policies happen or when there's a huge shock to the economy, not only consumers are affected. So right now we're seeing the cost of living increase, and also the cost of doing business significantly increase as well. And unfortunately, consumers are receiving a double whammy, because once the cost of production or cost of doing business increases, it trickles down, or producers pass down this burden in the form of higher prices to consumers. And so consumers are being battered from the already significant increase in the cost of living, followed by an additional increase in the price of commodities. But to be fair, I think that the issues with the power sector are quite multifaceted, right? You mentioned something about unbundling. I'm not an energy expert, but I do know that the capacity in Nigeria, the energy that we actually have, our generation capacity, is pretty high and enough to somewhat provide enough electricity for Nigeria. If you're aware, I'm pretty sure you already know that we do export some of our electricity. So the issue is not that we do not have the electricity. The problem is our transmission capacity, our transmission infrastructure is dilapidated, is inadequate to actually feed the entire nation. And then so we have excess power that we're exporting to generate revenue, because the power cannot go to waste. And then we're unable to service.
So I think that captures it, because a couple of days ago, I spoke to Mr. George Etomi.
Yes.
He's the chairman of West Power and Gas. And apart from the need for gas, which we say we are wasting, it's the infrastructure to turn that gas into what we need
exactly
for power.
Exactly.
It's such an irony.
So it brings me to something I've been saying of recent, that governance might not be so straightforward, but it has a lot of things to do with common sense. Now, we already know that the issue is, we already know that the core of it all is to actually drive productivity. And we know that the problem with Nigeria's power sector is that the infrastructure is not available. And if infrastructure is not available, productivity cannot be achieved. So if our general goal, if our overall goal is to achieve productivity, it does make sense to focus on addressing the issues that are affecting the sector. And what is truly affecting the transmission capacity right now is the infrastructure. So why not channel resources to that particular problem? So when we do address that, if there are still now recurring issues, we can now start troubleshooting to say, okay, this is where else problems are coming from. But the key thing here is we need to focus on achieving productivity or driving to driving towards achieving productivity in Nigeria. And this not only cuts across the power sector, but across everything: the agricultural sector, the manufacturing sector, the real estate sector, the construction sector. The key issue is that we're not producing enough. And why are we not producing enough? The key things that businesses need to thrive is not available for them.
And that's infrastructure.
Exactly.
Well, anyways, that was just what affects us.
Yes.
Now, what affects the whole nation? We're talking about MPC. We start seeing names of proposed individuals for the MPC, that's the Monetary Policy Committee by the Central Bank. There's a meeting that is supposed to hold on the 26th and 27th. And I remember I spoke to the chief executive of FDC some time ago, and I asked him, because I already heard that the Central Bank governor was going to change members, and he said, when you look at the time frame, it doesn't look like something that can be achieved. So now we're waiting for the Senate's approval for some of these individuals, and the meeting is on the 26th, 27th, and I'm wondering how that works.
I mean, to be very honest, I would say that Nigeria is on edge, and we're seeing this scramble amongst policymakers, and it's not sending a good signal to the market. This singular action is one of the reasons why the Naira did dip, simply because it's signaling to the market that there is crisis within monetary policy makers, and it doesn't bode well for the entire market. So we're seeing a lot of speculation, we're seeing a lot of attacks on the Naira, we're seeing investor confidence dampen, because the meeting is practically next week, next week.
No,
next 2 weeks.
26.
Yes, 26. Next 2 weeks, and we're just getting the members together. Meaning that the agenda is probably not yet set. We don't yet know how the CBN is going to address the issues. So the key thing here, basically, that I would focus more on is not on the members of the committee, but on what direction and what signal the Monetary Policy Committee is going to send to the market.
But I mean, the members, these are the individuals that will share the knowledge and experience for the direction of the meeting. These are the same individuals who do not know if they are going to be a part of the meeting on the 26th and 27th.
So I would say you're right in that, but then a lot more things feed into market sentiment and the eventual policy direction, right? And from everything that we've seen from the beginning of the year up until now, it is clear that the CBN is on a path of orthodoxy. It's also clear that the CBN is trying to be very direct in its approach to focusing on price stability. It's also very clear that the CBN is trying to do what it can to ensure that it keeps the Naira, in check, and it reins in inflation. Now, how far they are going to go with these new members, the markets cannot say. I can't even say. But the key thing here is to look at the signals that the CBN has been able to give to the market since the beginning of the year up until now. It has tried to clear some of its backlog. It has been open with the auditing of the CBN's books. It's doing a lot to be transparent. The key thing now is they continue on this path. But like I did mention, not having your policy committee members 2 weeks to your meeting is a bad signal to the market, and we did see the Naira take the heat for that. So I would say we just need that to be wrapped up as quickly as possible so that we can start focusing on the key issue, because the members right now are not the main problem. It is keeping inflation in check and keeping the exchange rate stable.
And these are the people who are making the decision. I
agree.
The policies are going to be made by them. That's what we'll see at the end of the meeting.
Yes, you're right. But then again, I would say it's my
you're just
bias
to be optimistic.
Exactly. I would say it's my being an economist that's trying to, because really we are trying to not look at all of these things. We're trying to, let's focus on what the signal is and what exactly is happening. What are the fundamentals saying? And this is what what I said is what the fundamentals are saying. So we're trying to just breeze over that, even though it's not a good signal, but we're trying to look past it.
Okay, so we see here that's for the MPC. Then we see Naira crashed yesterday.
Yes.
In spite of that huge intervention from the central bank, I think that was on Tuesday. You know, so perhaps these are some of those sentiments that, in spite of the lot efforts of the central bank, it seems it's not having the desired impact.
I mean, it's just simply what I said. The signaling, right, is extremely important. So when it comes to monetary policy, the directives are not just enough. It's also the signals that the policy authorities do send to the market. And we've seen this negative reaction simply because of, it's clear that there's no monetary policy committee yet, and we have a meeting in the next 2 weeks. So that's one of the reasons why the markets did react this way. But then again, you also have to consider the fact that I think I did mention it here before. When it comes to intervention in the FX market in times of crisis like this, it's expected, but it cannot be staggered. So by staggered, I mean
because the last time before this was September.
Exactly. So if we decide to have policy intervention like FX interventions of maybe 200 million, I'm giving an example, a hypothetical example today, and tomorrow it's 15. The markets will jitter simply because there's uncertainty. We don't know if this is going to continue. We don't know how, so might as well
when the next tranche will come.
Is going to come. So might as well hold the dollars I have now so that, I do not get bitten. So some of those inconsistencies in interventions are one of the things that also feed into negative market sentiments like we're witnessing this period. And another thing to just also consider is the FX market, even though the CBN has done a lot of work to try and narrow the gap between all the exchange rates that we have, the important thing is, or rather what I'm trying to say is, we've seen this unification or convergence happen, but there's still a lot of underlying restrictions here and there. There's still a lot of the sentiments are not, or the signals are not fully broad-based. So markets are still speculating on some certain restrictions that are somewhere that are not probably out there in the open. We saw T-bill rates actually increase significantly, but that hasn't done so much to significantly, increase investor sentiments. And when you really look at it, you realize that the negative rates of return on investments are still very wide, right? So inflation is still very high, and these returns are pretty low. So,
and we're still having government intervening in rate. Customs duties, for instance, had 5 times this year.
Exactly.
We're in the second month of the year.
Exactly. And so that's why I'm saying that, you see, all of these restrictions and conflicting signals are what the market's pricing for the exchange rates.
All right. Maybe thank you so much. We're counting down to MPC. We're watching the lawmakers. Hope they can make our job easier and just approve these members. But I wonder what will happen if they say, oh, this member cannot be approved. Then go hunting for another member and come back again,
I mean, we'll keep fingers crossed. We'll keep fingers crossed to see how that pans out.
All right, maybe thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Thank you.
All right, now let's take a break. When we come back from the break, I'd love to talk about women because I'm a woman. Join us after break here on Business Morning.